Mira, a poor young girl, survived the wicked cruelty of her aunt after losing both her parents. What her aunt did not know was that the very thing she destroyed, Mira's hair, was the only solution the entire village needed to survive. This story will shock you, so make sure you watch till the very end. In an ancient village surrounded by rolling hills and breathtaking natural beauty lived a young girl named Mira. She lived peacefully with her parents in a small mud brick house. Though the house was modest, it overflowed with love, laughter, and warmth. Mira was their greatest treasure. But Mira was not like other girls in the village. While the other girls wore their hair tightly braided into simple cornrows, Mira's hair marked her as something extraordinary, something touched by the gods. Her beauty alone could stop people in their tracks, but it was her hair that left them breathless. Thick and flowing, it reached down to her waist. Strands of deep midnight black were woven naturally with glowing white not of old age, but of pure light, shimmering like starlight. Even in darkness, those pale strands glowed faintly, as though alive. When Mira walked, her hair moved behind her like a royal cloak, whispering secrets only the spirits understood. The villagers admired her at first. But admiration is a fragile thing. Soon, admiration curdled into jealousy. Older women whispered behind their calabashes, their eyes sharp with envy. Young girls stared with clenched jaws, wishing they possessed even a fraction of Mira's beauty. Sensing the danger, Mira's mother often sat her by the fireside, gently braiding that magnificent hair with trembling fingers. She would look into Mira's eyes and say, "My child, listen carefully. Stay humble and kind to everyone, young and old. Never let pride enter your heart because of your beauty or your hair. Beauty fades like the evening sun, but good character is a sun that never sets. In the end, character will always defeat beauty." Mira took those words into her heart and wore humility like a second skin. But life does not warn before it strikes. One fateful afternoon, darkness crept into their home. Mira's father, a strong and hardworking man, collapsed suddenly with a fierce fever. Mira stayed by his side, cooling his body with wet cloths and preparing every herbal remedy she knew. Still, the fever refused to break. By nightfall, the pillar of their home breathed his last. The loss shattered them. Mira's mother, who loved her husband more than life itself, could not survive the shock. By the next day, she clutched her chest and collapsed, her heart giving up under the weight of grief. Within 48 hours, Mira lost both parents. She buried them side by side, her tears burning the fresh soil like acid. Overnight, she became an orphan, alone in a world that suddenly felt cold and cruel. As if grief was not enough, the villagers turned against her. Whispers spread like wildfire. They called her an evil girl. They accused her of bringing death to her parents. Those that once welcomed her were now shut tight. Then came her uncle, her father's younger brother. A greedy man with eyes always fixed on what did not belong to him, he saw opportunity in Mira's pain. He chased her off her father's farmland, throwing her few belongings into the red dust. "This land belongs to the men of the family," he shouted. "A girl has no inheritance here. Leave and find your own way." Mira looked around at the neighbors, people her parents had once fed during hard seasons, but they turned their backs. Fear sealed their mouths. In that moment, Mira understood a painful truth: without parents or wealth, she was invisible. With nowhere else to go, she gathered her few possessions and began the long journey to a neighboring village, the only place left to her. There lived her last remaining family, her aunt. Her name was Madame Dossis. A woman feared more than the forest spirits themselves. Her tongue was sharper than a razor, and her heart harder than stone. Madame Dossis had one daughter, Chioma, treated like a fragile egg, protected and cherished. And this was the house where Mira's real suffering was about to begin. Chioma never lifted a finger in that house. She never swept the floor, never fetched water, and never stepped into the sun for chores. Madame Dossis made sure of that. At the market, she would boast loudly to the women, "My daughter is destined for the palace. She will never taste the suffering of a common villager. She is gold among stones." When Mira finally arrived, dusty, tear-stained, and broken by grief, Madame Dossis smiled. But it was not a smile of kindness. It was the smile of a hunter sighting prey. "Come in, my niece," she said sweetly, her voice dripping with false honey. "You will stay?" But deep in her heart, Madame Dossis had already decided Mira's fate. She would be used, worked, broken. Everyone in the village knew Madame Dossis as a troublesome, heartless woman whose presence brought conflict. People crossed the road to avoid her shadow. But Mira had no choice. And soon, her presence stirred trouble of its own. No matter where Mira went, to the stream, to the market, or along the dusty footpaths, heads turned. Her hair was impossible to ignore. Sunlight caught the glowing white strands and reflected them like fire. Men paused mid-conversation to greet her. Hunters lowered their bows. Even palm wine tappers smiled too long. This attention drove Chioma mad. She would stand before her mirror, tugging angrily at her short, lifeless hair, her lips trembling with rage. "That girl's hair is a curse to me," she hissed to her reflection. "With it, she steals every eye. Even the prince may look at her one day, and I will be left with nothing." Jealousy twisted her thoughts until desperation took root. One afternoon, while Madame Dossis slept heavily, Chioma crept into her mother's room. She dragged out the heavy wooden box hidden beneath the bed and opened it. Her hands shook as she grabbed a thick bundle of cash and stuffed it beneath her wrapper. She ran straight to the largest cosmetic shop in the town center and slammed the money on the counter, startling the salesgirl. "I need a hair booster," Chioma demanded breathlessly. "And a cream. Something that will make my hair long and glowing in 3 days." The salesgirl burst out laughing. 3 days. "My dear, unless you plan to glue a horse's tail to your head, that is impossible." She paused, then leaned closer. "But I do have a strong chemical. It burns a little. It forces growth. In 1 month, your hair will change." Chioma hesitated only briefly. Impatient and desperate, she paid for it and hurried away, hiding the chemical in her dress. The next day, chaos erupted in Madame Dossis's house. She opened her wooden box and found it light. Her scream shook the thatched roof. "Who stole my money?" she roared, her eyes wide. She dragged both girls into the parlor. Before Mira could speak, Chioma stepped forward, her face carefully twisted into innocence. "Mama, you know I am your blood. I could never steal from you," she said softly. Then she pointed at Mira. "Ask the stranger. She has nothing." That was all it took. Without a single question, Madame Dossis grabbed a heavy cane and descended on Mira like a storm. The blows rained down mercilessly. "I am not a thief," Mira cried, curling into herself. "I have never stolen in my life." But the cane kept falling. Tears streamed down her face until something extraordinary happened. As the beating continued, Mira's hair began to pulse. The white strands glowed brighter and brighter until the dark room was flooded with blinding, divine light. It was as though the ancestors themselves had risen in defense of the girl. Madame Dossis froze. The cane slipped from her fingers and hit the floor. She staggered back, staring at Mira in terror. This was no ordinary child. The more pain Mira endured, the stronger the glow became. Fear crawled into Madame Dossis's heart, but fear soon turned into greed. "What is the secret of this hair?" she thought. "In all my 48 years, I have never seen such power." The next morning, while mist still clung to the trees, Madame Dossis wrapped her cloth tightly and walked to the shrine of the dreaded witch doctor, Boba. She knelt before him and whispered, her voice trembling. "Boba, my niece lives with me. She is different. Her hair is long, and it glows. Please, tell me the secret behind it." Boba cast his cowries onto the dusty floor and began to chant in a low, ancient voice. The shrine fell silent as he studied the patterns. Suddenly, his eyes widened in shock. "Madame Dossis," he rasped, "you are fortunate, though you do not yet understand it. That girl carries a glory no one can resist. Her hair is a divine solution to many problems. Mira is destined for greatness. That gift is from the gods themselves." Madame Dossis left the shrine boiling with rage. The prophecy did not bring her joy, it drove her mad with jealousy. When she reached home, she saw Mira in the compound calmly combing her radiant hair. The strands shimmered in the sunlight, glowing as if alive. So she will be greater than my daughter. Madame Dossis muttered, her fist clenched. I will not allow it. I will break her. From that day, Mira's life became a living nightmare. Before dawn each morning, Madame Dossis would storm into Mira's room and wake her with a heavy slap. Useless girl. Do you think you came here to eat for free? Go to the river and fetch water. Half asleep, Mira would stagger out with a heavy clay pot balanced on her head. Morning and evening, she trekked to the stream. She washed endless plates, swept the large compound, and cooked for the entire household. While Mira worked until her bones ached, Choma sat comfortably, applying makeup and rubbing harsh chemicals into her scalp, praying her hair would grow faster than Mira's. She lifted no finger. Madame Dossis often sent Mira to hawk fruits under the scorching sun. Yet even in suffering, Mira's light could not be hidden. People rushed to buy from her just to stand near her glowing hair. She returned home each time and handed over every coin. Still, she was given no gratitude. Madame Dossis and Choma ate the best food and meat, leaving only burnt scraps at the bottom of the pot for Mira. Then came the day that changed everything. While hawking her fruits, Mira saw a dead man lying by the roadside. Her kind heart leapt into action. What happened to him? She cried. Where is his family? But jealous women, who had long resented her beauty, saw their opportunity. The girl with the evil hair has killed someone, they screamed. She is a witch. A mob gathered instantly. Without questions, they attacked her. They slapped her, kicked her into the dust, tore her clothes, and beat her mercilessly. Bruised and bleeding, Mira crawled home. Madame Dossis stood at the doorway. She knew Mira was innocent, but jealousy had blinded her. You disgrace, she screamed. You and this cursed hair. I will end this today. Choma ran and returned with rusty tailoring scissors. They held Mira down as she begged in tears. Please, auntie, it is my only gift. But Mercy had left that house. Snip. Snip. The sound was sickening. Madame Dossis hacked away the black and white strands until Mira's scalp was bare and bleeding. Look at you now, she sneered, kicking the glowing hair aside. You are nothing. Mira was shattered. The village turned completely against her. They called her a murderer and a witch. At the market, women covered their goods. At the river, people ran away. Children threw stones at her. But the gods were watching. 1 month later, disaster struck the land. The rivers dried up. Crops withered into dust. Rain refused to fall. Hunger and thirst spread like fire. Children fell sick. Some died. Parents survived by eating lizards and roots. Madame Dossis and Choma became shadows of themselves. Broken and hopeless, Mira went to her parents' graves. For 3 days, she cried. I cannot bear this life anymore. My hair is gone. I would rather die. Suddenly, a spirit appeared, shaped like a woman made of cloud and light. She touched Mira's head. Instantly, Mira's hair grew back, longer, fuller, brighter than before. You are the savior of this land, the spirit said. Cut 1 strand of your hair and place it in the dry river. Then bury exactly 100 strands at the village junction. Tomorrow, water and food will return. The spirit vanished. Mira rushed back to the village. Though people whispered in fear, she went straight to the king. I have the solution, she said. The king doubted her, but allowed her to try. The next morning, thunder shook the ground. Rivers burst forth with water. Crops turned green overnight. Children and animals were healed. The village erupted in joy. The king declared, from today, Mira is second in command, mother of the land. Madame Dossis and Choma watched from the shadows, their jealousy turned to shame. And so, Mira rose, from orphan to savior, proving that a pure heart will always triumph over cruelty.